My family invested in real estate with a partner that ended up being a con man who stole all our money. We lost pretty much everything, my family at the time, my parents, my brothers. So fast forward 18 years later, it was the best thing that ever happened. But in the moment, it felt like a catastrophe in every way. I used to get so excited. You'd land $1 million contract. Now it's, oh, I don't have anything to do on Wednesday. I can go hang out with my son.
Who were you before you became the builder?
It's a great question.
Who are you and what do you do?
I'm Mahmoud Elayan, and I build custom luxury homes in New Jersey.
Who were you before you became the builder?
It's a great question. Who was I? I think that I'm still trying to figure out who I am today, even after becoming the builder. I was an energetic, inspired young man, and I always dreamt of a big life. I wanted all the nice things that everyone else around me had, and I had no concept of how I would get it, but I was a dreamer by nature. And everything I did, I wanted to be the best at. And I wasn't very good at many things, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I wasn't good at sports, but I had a good personality. I was never afraid to speak to people. I was a funny guy that would be in the back corner just cracking jokes, and I got along with pretty much everybody. But that was sort of, I think, the driving factor for everything else that happened in my life. Is I stayed true to my roots of just being a person who enjoys socializing and speaking to people. And I think that if you had to describe me, most people would say that I'm a very social being.
When did you realize that this career was it for you?
I think that since I was being maybe 8 or 9, 10 years old, I was obsessed with homes. It was something that I always admired. I would drag my parents to see homes that were for sale, that were far out of our price range, and they would entertain me and take me. But I had no concept that I would end up being a builder in the future. When I was around 27 years old, I fell into the construction field, and I got a taste of what it was like to take something that was ugly and turn it into something that was beautiful. And it was like a drug. It just hooked me.
What was your very first step into this industry?
I did not take a traditional path. I did not go to college. And most people are shocked by that. I actually fell into this through a fraudulent transaction where my family invested in real estate with a partner that ended up being a con man who stole all our money. He was supposed to renovate a property that we had purchased, and he left us high and dry and stole the money. And that was my first experience in renovations, and it was sort of just trying to sweep up the mess and salvage at least some of the initial investment we made. We lost pretty much everything, my family at the time, my parents, my brothers, but that was how I got into the construction industry. So fast forward 18 years later, it was the best thing that ever happened, but in the moment it felt like a catastrophe in every way.
So from difficulty, you managed to create an opportunity for yourself.
There's only opportunity through difficulty. It doesn't exist in any other way.
What's the most rewarding part of your job?
When we take a piece of land and we develop a beautiful home after a year or two of hard work, and we get to see a family show up once the home is complete, and the kids are smiling and the parents are laughing and they're walking into their home for the first time, their smiles essentially give us all of the gratification we need, and it's such a great feeling. So for me, finishing a home is usually the best part of the process.
What's the toughest part of your job?
We deal with very demanding individuals, the top 1% of the world, very successful people that are building their dream homes. Building a home is a very emotional endeavor. It's not a standard business deal where there's no emotion. Every emotion is involved. So when a wife walks in and she sees the paint color she picked not look the way she expected, and it was a $150,000 paint job, and she starts losing her mind, we have to now deal with that, and we almost act as therapists for our clients. That is, I think, something that I underestimated as far as the challenges we'd face. And as we continued to grow and our projects became more complex, so did our challenges of overcoming these types of flares with our clients. It's not something that you can improve on, because you will have this same issue with every single client. We've just become exceptional at forecasting these problems and learning the people's personalities. No two people are alike. Early on, we have many interview phases with the clients where they're interviewing us, but we're also interviewing them. We learn their personalities, and then we say, all right, well, this client needs an email every week, this one needs one every day, and we're able to discuss those things based on how we perceive them to respond. So for instance, if we have a $100,000 budget for kitchen cabinets, but what they're looking at will be $200,000. Some clients will tell them right away, hey, you need to reselect, while other clients will take offense. Well, are you telling me that you didn't budget enough? I told you I wanted a high-end kitchen, and that's just a very hard thing to predict, because high-end is such a general term. For some people, it's half that amount. So we do have to go through that tug of war constantly, but it's about how you speak to people. Disarm them, make them feel comfortable. You're on their side, you're not against them. And I think that that's the reason why we became very successful, because in my industry, most people are very rough. They don't know how to communicate at a high level. So my team, if they have an issue that they can't resolve, they'll escalate it, and then I'll be the person to call, and then I'll tell them, oh, that was handled, and they'll always say, well, how did you do it? I'm not good at a lot of things, but I know people. I feel like I fell into the business of building homes, but it's relationships that I'm really building. You know, my team is managing the construction, and I'm really managing the clients.
What is one myth or stereotype about your field that just drives you crazy?
That everyone's a crook, that we're all criminals. Because in America, that you'll find in the construction industry, there are a vast majority. And I'm from New Jersey, Paisan, take it easy, buddy. So I'm from that world directly. And to a certain extent, it's true. There's a lot of criminal activity in the construction industry, and it's hard to find honest people. And in the beginning phase of our career, before we had the reputation we have, that was a struggle, because we had to overcome that trepidation of, is this guy a crook? Why should I hire him? So it's challenging.
If you hadn't became a builder, what would you have pursued instead?
Professional skydiver. No, I'm just joking. I'm afraid to look down. I don't like heights. You know, that's a question that I was never able to answer. I was sort of lost. I don't like to take credit for anything, because for me, God is the author of all. It's our job to go do the best we can, but I feel like we find ourselves on the path that God decreed for us. And for whatever reason, this is where I was positioned to be. And I truly have no idea what I would be doing if it wasn't this.
What's the hardest lesson that you've ever learned in your career so far?
You never change your protocol. If you have a set of rules that you've set for yourself or your business, don't modify them. When someone asks you for a favor or a discount, those are the people that will make you regret being alive. They'll run you through the mud. Anyone that doesn't value your services and value what you're asking, they're the people that are willing to take advantage of you, not respect your hours, that'll have you on call 24 hours a day, and you're looking at it like, I did you a favor. And it starts to build resentment and anger, and now that one person you're servicing takes the majority of your time away from all of the clients that are paying you your true value. Sticking to protocol is something that I'll never violate again.
If you could go back and change one thing in your career, what would it be?
I would purchase land and build buildings for rentals rather than build homes for people. I would stay in the construction field. I learned strictly from a business perspective that you are a slave if you have to work for your money. When you build buildings and you rent them, your money is working for you. You're asleep, you're collecting rent. I put the same amount of time in building a 20,000 square foot, $10 million house as someone who's building 75 or 80 apartments. But once I'm done, my paychecks stop. Whereas the person who builds the buildings has rental income for the rest of their lives. I'm at a point right now where I value my time more than anything. You know, after 40 years old, you start to reassess your life. Now, if I get a call for a job, I have to look at the client and look at the project and see, is this worth 2 years of my life? Because at the end of the day, We just want to buy back our time when we get older. I want to be able to walk with my son on a Tuesday afternoon and take him to the beach and not have to be picking up 40 different phone calls and stressing. So that is something that I feel I wish I knew earlier. Instead of working for your money, develop a business where your money works for you.
Would you say that the reason why you felt this way is experience from the life that you have been pursuing, or is it because of your family?
I think it's a combination of both, and a lot of this becomes with self-awareness. I feel like I didn't know myself until I turned 40, which was about 2 years ago. You know, when I discovered who I really am, who's Mahmoud Elayan, I'm a person who loves his faith, his family, his friends, and while I love building homes, I realize that it's the little moments. Hearing the laughter of my children who, you know, my son's almost 19 years old, my daughter's graduating high school, and I only have one son left that's 11 years old. You know, in less than a year, 2 of my children are out in the world. And it went in the blink of an eye. How can I buy my time back so that the next 7 years of my 11-year-old's life, I can truly be immersed in him? I was so busy building my brand while my other 2 children were younger that I missed out on so much. So when I tell you self-awareness, it's not just self-awareness, it's being aware of reality of life, is that life and time is a fleeting moment. And I don't chase money anymore. I used to. I used to get so excited. You land $1 million contract or whatever it might be. Now it's, oh, I don't have anything to do on Wednesday, I can go hang out with my son. It just takes time for life's bumps to teach you that wisdom.
Who out of your 3 children do you feel like has taken inspiration into your work?
My oldest son, Jad, wanted to enter into the family business. And believe it or not, I pushed him away from that idea. What I wanted him to do was I wanted him to shadow me for the sake of understanding how to deal with people. But I didn't want him to be stuck building homes per se. I encouraged him to do what I told you about building buildings, but not directly what I do. And the reason is I went through a major transition bringing my family from America, where we were born and raised, to here in Qatar for the purpose of living a more secure, safe, and modest lifestyle, closer to where we're from originally. In a place where we feel welcome, where we feel comfortable, we can be true to our identities. So to have him stay in America and take over the business sort of unravels all that work. And I value preserving his children's lives in a safe place like Qatar more than I do him taking over the business. My hopes are that he does learn the social aspect, learns development, because we can build buildings right here in our backyard in Qatar. We can do it all over the Middle East, Asia, Europe. There's nothing tying us down to just building homes in New Jersey. In my opinion, we've already mastered the most complex part of our industry, dealing with the 1%, building these homes that are built like buildings, the amount of structural steel, they're very complex structures. So there's no reason we can't do something like that here. And I actually am thinking about doing ECS here, but not in the same fashion. We buy land, we build a proper villa, our style, put it into the open market and see what people are willing to pay for it. So in that aspect, I would like him to pursue it, but right here in Qatar.
What has inspired you so deeply to stay tied to your roots?
You know, it's very hard for someone who's comfortable to make a move like we made. People usually move from a country or from an area when they're uncomfortable or they have a better opportunity. But we went from a position of comfort to a position of unknown. We did that because I told you earlier, I don't value money. I value peace. How do I define peace? It's hearing the call to prayer. It's living in an area where I can be Mahmoud and I don't have to be Mike. It's being 2 hours on a plane from where I'm originally from, in Palestine. It's having this part of the world and this energy that I've missed out on growing out in America. To walk out and say Sabah al-Khair, you know, just an Arabic phrase to anyone and have them respond. I can't tell you how priceless it feels because we grew up not knowing who we were. we lost our identity. And I love America, and I love the life we have there and all the opportunities we have. But there's things that are more valuable than opportunities in life. And I know that's so hard, especially when you're starting out in life, to hear that. Nah, what is this guy talking about? He already has money, it's easy to say. And it's okay, go abroad, do what you have to do wherever you're gonna give yourself a better life. But like you said, stay grounded. You will come to a point, God willing, where you start to realize, you know what? I just want to be with people who have similar mindsets. I wanna feel safe and comfortable, and I feel that this is an area in the world where that's achievable. And I've traveled all over the world, and you don't get this feeling in many other places.
Okay, this is my favorite part of the show. I'll throw some quick stereotypes and hot takes about your job. You've got 60 seconds to fire back. Builders always go over budget and somehow act surprised every time it happens.
This is not true. I mean, it might be true, but I'll tell you that the reason we go over budget are clients always upgrade. They want this refrigerator instead of the one that you had budgeted. So essentially, you look like you are over budget because you technically are, but it's usually their doing.
Because they just have to change their mind.
But they forget about that. So they blame you for them changing their mind. So this is a mental gymnastics that we have to go. We get blamed for the upgrades that they make.
Nothing is ever finished on time. 2 weeks actually means 2 months.
That's pretty much true. But again, a lot of this becomes, they add scope to the project. And most people aren't really good about telling a client, well, you just changed, a standard paint job to Venetian plaster. It's an extra 6 weeks. They still want to move in when you told them they were going to move in the beginning, but we added 4 months worth of work. That all comes from bad communication. If you communicate properly, you can succeed.
Builders speak a different language. Square footage, load bearing, and trust me.
We definitely do this on purpose when we want the client to just leave. If we're in a 4-hour meeting with a client and they're asking us all these questions and we're answering them, and then it just becomes tired. Well, yep, you see that structural wall right there? Yeah, well, if we remove this structural wall, that steel beam is gonna fall down there, and then they just start, you can see their minds are spinning. Like, maybe you should go grab some lunch. And then that meeting's over. So sometimes that's our little exit strategy if we have another meeting and they're taking up all of our time. So yes, and the trust me part, we do use that, I'm not gonna lie.
We usually go 3, but you're killing these. So once the project starts, the builder is suddenly very hard to reach.
That is very true for most people, not for us.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that the testament is in our reviews. People are always voicing how they feel, especially when they're unhappy or dissatisfied. Thank God we don't have one negative review because we're very good with communication. We might not always say what you want to hear, but we're going to answer your phone. Don't chase money, chase purpose. If you chase money, it'll be the last thing you get, but if you chase purpose, if you build skills, the money will follow. And most people, they do that the opposite. They're just looking for, how can I make money fast, without really having anything of value. But if you learn something, if you build relationships and you network, and you can excel in a niche field by being the best at it, then the money will follow. I don't do anything special. I build houses. I happen to build some of the nicest houses in the state, but that wasn't always the case. It took time to get there. If I was just chasing money, I would be doing small little repair jobs in urban areas. But I valued building something beautiful and building these gorgeous homes. And I made it my business, even if we were losing money, to build the nicest house you will ever see. And before you know it, people were lined up to pay what we were asking for those homes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.